Hi out there in YouTube land, it's James here from the Studio Rats. It's my turn to do the whole studio tour type thing, and as you can probably tell, there's quite a lot to see because I think, what is termed a gear monkey. So we'll start off, I'll dive that side of the camera, and I'll show you around all the toys and loveliness we have to play with in here. So we're starting by the studio door. Let me just shut that. And I want you to see exactly how tight it is in here. When Paul and Dan are recording with me in here as well, it is quite cozy. The whole place is only 5 meters by 4 meters, and we have managed to cram in quite a bit of, well, quite a few toys. None more beautiful and more fine than this baby. This is my Audient 8024 Heritage Edition console. It is absolutely stunning. 24 input channels. I think I actually get 60 channels on mix down, but hey, whoever mixes with that many channels, right? So that's the console. You can see everything's kind of permanently marked up. Paul has a heart attack when I say I'm using 5 toms. But yeah, everything is pretty much there. I'm mixing and working with these rather lovely Focal Twin 6Bs. I've also got the sub down below the console as well, and they are all driven by my Trinov, my Demon system, which is kind of room correction. Speaker correction, I think, is technically the term rather than room correction, but hey. These days, I am a PC user rather than a Mac user, so I've got a rather lovely ultra-wide screen down there. And the main machine itself is down here. It's a HP Z840 workstation, pimped and tweaked by my buddy Rich at Workstation Pros. And going back towards the door, some of the guitars. We've got a 1960s Echo there. My first guitar, which is an Epiphone Sheraton, like a 335 copy. My Les Paul, my Strat, my Telly. My rather lovely acoustic guitar, which is a Patrick Eggle acoustic. There's a Fender steel string there that has been tuned Nashville style, which is all the other strings on a 12-string set, which is quite cool. A couple of guitars up here, Boulder Creek acoustic and my Eggle electric. On top of the rack, we've got some drum machines. So the Drum Brute Impact from Arturia. There's my rather aging Alesis Wedge back there. Some other goodies up here being protected by Yoda. My main A to D converter, which is the ADI2 Pro from RME. My secondary interface I use for my kind of voiceover stuff, which you're actually hearing me on now, which is the Claret. And my KHE amp switcher. We'll come on to amps and things in a little bit, but this is a very, very cool piece of kit. Paul went for the Kahayan, whereas I actually like this over the Kahayan, which is really cool. The main interface rack, depending on the job I'm doing at the time, it might be that I'm using the Goliath HD version 3, or it could be that I'm using the Universal Apollo X16s for the main kind of I/O for the console. There's also a Tascam DA6400 there, which I'm using for kind of Dante redundancy. So it runs all the time, just sitting there recording everything that comes into it. Very, very cool. Great system for like, oh no, someone forgot to press record. It's still running, it's still there. The other side, I've got my main Dante interface, which was the RedNet 5. That controls all the headphone monitoring, things like that. My 11 rack, which I still love. This is one of the first ones that actually landed in the UK. God, 10, 12 years ago now. Absolutely phenomenal piece of kit. I still use it on every session. You'll see lots of these little boxes around the studio. These are RedNet. This is an AM2 box, just like little Dante headphone feeds. There's a couple over here, and there's an X2P and an AM2 over here. And you can see they're marked for guitar in ears, vocal in ears. This one's bass. And I've got a couple more in the cupboard that I can drag out if I need to. Guitar amps wise, I've got the rather lovely Chandler GAV19T. Fantastic sounding amp, very voxy, kind of very English sounding. Has a lovely overdrive to it. The PV Classic 20, not an amp I thought I'd fall in love with, but I Absolutely adore this thing. It's got a really nice kind of crunchy country sort of tone to it. And the amp that Paul and I share, which is the Rev D20. When I say share, he's got one and I've got one, with the Rev pedals on top. This thing just sounds great. It's a really cool, great pedal platform. We then have my laptop for all the other stuff that you need to do in a studio. I bought a mandolin a little while ago and it seems to fit there quite nicely. Great sound. Really, I think of my studio as being a place where you can come and make most sounds, and hopefully make most sounds really well. I'm not a great fan of synths and things like that, although saying that, there are a few synths tucked away in the corners, along with a pile of stuff for review and some bits and pieces that I'm using at the moment. The JZ Vintage 11 mic sounds really cool on acoustic guitar. Behind that door, by the way, that is the cupboard from hell, full of cold boxes and all the stuff that I'm currently reviewing for Production Expert. So let's go down to this rack here. This is my main kind of input rack, if you like. So I've got the Bricasti M7 for reverb, my 500 series rack with plenty of mic pre's and some kind of flavor stuff. There's some Neve, API, Focusrite Red, the Warm WA12s I really like, the Technosign Gain, which is an Italian preamp, but this has a really nice party trick. Everything is relay controlled. Great for when you need to use a microphone that needs matched gains across the two inputs, something like the Townsend Labs or any of the Antelope mics. Pair of WA76 limiters. Let's face it, they're 1176s with a Warm badge on. A pair of Warm Tube EQs. Again, they're Pultex with a Warm badge. The rather brilliant Flock patch system, which is basically a digitally controlled analog patch bay, means I can recall patches for different configurations, different recording setups instantly. Very, very cool indeed. I've then got the 6176 Universal Audio mic pre and compressor, a quartet of DBX 160As. I love these. At the moment, they're set up for guitars and overheads. A pair of LA2A type things. I've got the Warm WA2A and the Clark Technic KT2A. They sound so similar, but they both sound really good in their own right. And then on the bottom is my power conditioner. Now, this is actually doing a lot more than most power conditioners. It is cleaning up the power, but it's also providing 9, 6, and 12 volts. So instead of having loads of wall warts plugged in the back, it is doing all that. And it's doing it really nicely and giving me nice clean power for things that don't require 240 volts. Underneath the console, I've got two more racks. I've got the Trinnov and the power supply. And in here, there are, he says, trying not to rip the place apart, some microphones. That's the small diaphragm and large diaphragm condensers. Oh, and a couple of ribbons. Then over this side, we have, oh yeah, all the kind of clips and mounting goodies. The Essential paintbrush that I haven't used in a while for cleaning the console. My patching system, my mic patching system from the live room into the console. And guitar pedals. This kind of is my standard board, if you like. So I've got a bit of overdrive, a bit of chorus, talk box, which gets used more often than you think, actually. The Flashback 4 is a really cool delay. Morley wah. I much prefer the Morley wah to the Dunlop Crybaby, but hey, you know, each to their own. There's some more pedals and bits and pieces down there. Fuzz Face, which I bought for a job recently, which just sounds amazing. It's the Hendrix edition, so it sounds incredible. And then up here is my cable tree where most of the stuff I use most of the time lives. The Vovox guitar cables, the Sonora cables, are well worth checking out. They sound absolutely amazing. Okay, let's head into the drum room. And as they say, this is truly where the magic happens. My Sonor SQ2 kit. 5 toms. Sorry, Paul. Currently with the rather beautiful 1958 Ludwig WFL. This is actually the drum that was used on the opening and closing credits of Only Fools and Horses, the British TV sitcom. It's not a similar one, it's the one. So thanks to the guys at Sound Attack for keeping that one for me. So the kit's all mic'd up. It lives mic'd up all the time. Ready for me to jump in here and start recording at a moment's notice. The drum mics themselves stay fairly regular. Sontronics DM1Ts on the toms. I've got an Ivey RE320 on the floor tom. Just sounds amazing and sort of bass drummy, almost like a gong drum. Some Shaw's on the hat and the ride. This amazing Loughton mic, the LS380 on the snare. Bunch of headphones, different things. The all-important wind chimes. My overhead mics on the drums change quite regularly, actually. At the moment, I'm using these Lewitts. They sound absolutely amazing, and they're not that expensive. The LCT 140 Airs, they sound absolutely awesome. Really nice, open-sounding overhead sound. Just lovely. Again, cymbals-wise, I don't really subscribe to the you must be one brand or another. I've got Sabians, Dreams, Zildjians, all sorts of different things that just sound right. The ride cymbal changes quite a bit depending on the track I'm working on. At the moment, I'm using a rather lovely Zildjian Sweet Ride, 21-inch Sweet Ride. Okay, so from the drum point of view, looking the other way, there's a diffuser on the back wall, cupboards with CDs and strings and drives and bits and pieces. A couple of basses. I've got a Mexican jazz bass there, Fender Jazz, and a Yamaha TRB5, which I really like. There's also a banjo there that was actually my late father-in-law's. Percussion, bits and pieces. The all-important Meerkat, because we need to keep it simples. This is my Grossman cabinet. This is actually a 1x12 quiet cabinet. In there's a vintage 30, and it's got 3 mics on it permanently, and it's a way that I can have real guitars or real loud guitars and get the vibe of an amp driving really hard without having the deafening volume of a loud guitar amp driving really hard. Paul actually sold this one to me. I think he's probably regretting it because it's a really, really good piece of kit. Down there, he says, if I can get down there, is the patch box that goes between there and the patch bay underneath the console. And that runs 16 channels from the drum room into the control room. Well, that didn't take anything like as long as I thought it would. If there's anything you've seen that you want a bit more clarification on, or anything that particularly you'd like me to do a particular video on, or anything like that, please do let us know down there in the comments. Also, please do remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down there. That way we can make sure that you get to see all the content we put out as the Studio Rats. But for now, my name's James Ivey, and I will see you again very soon for some more Studio Rats action.